Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what's going on? This is Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com, with you for another episode of the Steelers Preview. Joining me, as always, the triumphant trio. It's Bryan Anthony Davis, our podcast producer. What's up, Bryan? How are you tonight?
Very good, my friend Jeff and my other friend Dave. Very nice evening. A little chilly over in Maryland today, but I'm looking forward to the weekend and looking forward to the countdown.
That's right. The countdown to the draft. Dave Schofield, other co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. What's up, Dave? How are you?
2 weeks, man. 2 weeks right now. We're going to be on the edge of our seats saying, how's it going to all pan out? We've all, as much as even those of us that don't like mock drafts, we've seen so many mock drafts. We've done so many mock drafts. We just want to see. I'm tired of the word mock. I'm ready for the real thing. I want to know how it's really going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be fun. Before we get started, we have some news before we get to the news, some celebratory stuff to talk about. First and foremost, Mr. Bryan Anthony Davis celebrated an anniversary recently. Am I right, Bryan? Congratulations. Happy anniversary. There you go. Give you a little shout out on the show. How did everything go? Okay.
14 years yesterday. I have been married for the second time. And so the starter wife didn't work out. So this one is done really well. So I'm really enjoying it. I annoy the hell out of her every single day. And it's funny, you'll be surprised that we lasted 14 years when you get to my list today, because it actually includes her. She had one of the biggest don'ts on draft day. And we'll talk about that later.
We will talk about it. And for David Schofield, who has a birthday coming up this weekend, happy early birthday, Dave. Hope you have a great 35th birthday, and I hope everything's
34th.
Oh, 34th. I'm sorry. My apology.
Oh, nuts. I was going to say 61.
No, I was going to say it's the inverse of that. It's the well, not the inverse. The mathematician in me can't let that go, but you know what I think you know. Hopefully, maybe Jeff will actually give me a day off.
You can have a day off whenever you want. You just got to ask.
I'm messing. No, there are no days off when it comes to covering the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is a 24/7, 365 obsession.
No sleep till Brooklyn.
Absolutely. And let's get this show started. Congratulations to both of you all. Let's get this show started. We wanted to talk about the news first. And there was a lot of news this week, believe it or not. Started off with James Conner, Jimmy C, as we called him last season. Jimmy C, no longer a member of the Steelers. My son was crushed. He was devastated. It was his favorite player. He even told me, because I'm still going to like James Conner. And I said, that is fine. That's fine. You're just not going to root for the Cardinals. He said, no. I give him the thumbs up. I appreciate that. But still, James Conner is now a member of the Cardinals. First and foremost, I don't think anyone here was surprised that a member of the Steelers went to the Cardinals. My gosh, Dave and I were trying to work up this list of Steelers who went to play for Arizona. I mean, you think about all the players who at least spent a season there. So Rashard Mendenhall, Joey Porter, Alan Faneca, Max Starks, Brian McFadden. Who am I forgetting, guys? William Gay. Woodley went there?
Yeah,
Jarvis Jones. The Raiders. I know Jarvis Jones.
He ended up there, though.
How did he?
Didn't Senquez Golson go there for a heartbeat?
I should know this. I wrote that article a few weeks ago.
I was thinking Tampa for some reason.
He went somewhere, tried to play. I think you're right. I think it was Tampa.
Yeah.
But Sean Morey, I mean, there's a bunch more that.
Marcus Gilbert in the he did. Yeah. Clark Higgins, did he go there? That's what Jared was saying.
Clark was there, yeah.
I mean, we just kept coming up with more and more. We eventually had to stop.
That's why I wrote in the article. I said, hey, there's more to this list. We're just not putting them all here. But anyways, what were your thoughts when you heard that James Conner was officially signing with the Cardinals and is no longer a member of the Steelers and is no longer in Western PA? Bryan, we'll start with you.
My first thought was great for Jimmy C, because I love James Conner. I think he's a fantastic human being. It wasn't going to work out here for what the Steelers need. So it was a business decision on this end. But for a business decision for James Conner and his family, I was really thrilled for that. Then the second was, oh gosh, James Conner's gone. Because when he was in the lineup, I really liked what he could do. I liked his running style. I liked a lot about him. But I just didn't, we could talk about the line, we can talk about the system. It just didn't all mesh, and there's a lot of a clean slate that needs to happen on offense, and so that's a part of it. So I wish him well. I'm with your son. I am going to be rooting for James Conner, and I would wear a James Conner crimson jersey or whatever that was. I would wear one.
Remember, this is the guy that has 750 jerseys.
That's true. I would never be caught dead in a crimson jersey, but personally, but that's just me.
None of another team.
No.
I don't have another team, but James Conner's the kind of guy I would wear one for.
I do.
Yeah. Anyway, you have an all-star. You have an all-star.
I have a Mike All-Star jersey. Yep. So, got to give a shout out to Steelers Pittsburgh. Found another one. Kelvin Beachum. He's with the Cardinals now.
Is he?
That's another one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, out there.
I guess it's my turn to say this. I don't know if I heard you turn it over to me or not, but Bryan hit the nail on the head. None of us were shocked. It's a really good fit for him, I think. So I wish him nothing but the best. I also like that the Steelers will not be playing the Cardinals for at least 2 more seasons unless they meet in February, which I would not be opposed to. So wish him all the best, but if the Steelers really wanted him back at all, they could have had him. I know some people are like, oh, it was only $1.75 million. The Steelers could have afforded that. They could have. They chose not to.
And 1 year deal, correct? 1 year deal,
1 year.
Dave?
Yep, fully guaranteed.
So 1 year deal. It's just going to come down to one thing for 2 things. I'm sorry. He has to have the blocking in front of him. He's not a player like Le'Veon Bell that's going to make something out of nothing. That's just not James Conner's MO. And he has to stay healthy. And so far, he has yet to do that. But I don't think there's anyone really that I saw, whether it was on the comment section of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com or on Twitter, those people wished him luck and said, you know what, James, you've been a tremendous story. You've been a tremendous person, a Western PA native. He was from Erie, and he obviously went to Pitt. It was a great story, and I think that the clean slate that Bryan talked about for the offense was also needed for him. I think he needed to get out of here. I think he needed to get out of Western PA and start fresh. And maybe it works out in Arizona. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe he goes somewhere else. He's a guy that, sometimes when Steelers leave and they go somewhere else, you kind of are like, well, if they stink, it's just going to prove our narrative that when they leave Pittsburgh, they're no good. But he's a guy that I'd be okay if he excelled somewhere else because you want to see him do well. It's a great story, but James Conner is gone. And so that only leaves a couple big name free agents that are still out there. None other than Big Al, Alejandro Villanueva. Reports were kind of swirling a little bit this week that he was potentially, I think was it John Clayton? I don't even know if that guy's still alive, but he said that Alejandro Villanueva might be coming back. Guys, before we get into any other news, and there's plenty to talk about, Big Al coming back, are you on board for that or are you not? Bryan, which side of the fence are you standing on?
I'm fine with it because everybody's going to react on how bad he was. My gosh, his grades were fine. I didn't think he was that bad last year. I thought he had an Al Villanueva season. Maybe might have lost a step, but he's not. We're so quick to throw these guys away when there's just a little bit of a turn. Gosh, people are ready to throw DeCastro away from one season that wasn't his best, but it was still a Pro Bowl season. Now we can argue that Pro Bowl season, that it's the voters, the fans voting. You can vote. You can talk about that all you want, but we're so quick to throw these guys away. Is it going to make your team worse to have him on the team? If you bring him back on a 1-year deal and it's a team-friendly deal, it doesn't kill you. You still are going to try to draft one of these guys, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, but I'm fine with Big Al coming back.
Okay, what about you, Dave? Which side are you on?
Okay, I'm going to say something that's probably going to ruffle some feathers because the problem is there is a portion of the Steelers fan base. I'm not accusing anybody in particular, but that they're out there, that they look at Al Villanueva. Bryan mentioned David DeCastro. I'll even say Ben Roethlisberger. They're ready to be done with someone who's not playing as well as they once did, even if their play is which wasn't what it once was for them before, is better than the alternative. People were saying, oh, Ben Roethlisberger is not what he used to be. Steelers should move on to him. Move on to what? You talked about that, Jeff. Move on to what? Just because Ben isn't what he used to be does not mean that what he is now is not better than their other options. And that could also be the case with Big Al. That I feel that's how it was last year. He wasn't as good as he had been in the past, but he was still better than the Steelers' other options. So I would be fine if they bring him back, but I don't think they bring him back guaranteeing that it's his job.
Well, let me follow this up here. I'm going to go with you first, Dave, and then I'll send it over to Bryan. If they bring him back, do they do it before the draft? Yes or no? You don't think so? You think they wait? Bryan, you agree with Dave, or do you think that they do bring him back?
Absolutely do I agree with Dave.
Okay.
Because don't bring it back if you don't need to. Don't spend the money if you end up having 2 tackles fall to you in spots you didn't expect them, and then you've got all these tackles that you've spent money on. They've been really good with their spending of not. I mean, with the exception of they paid Chris Wormley because they lost Alualu and then they got Alualu back. They've been really good of not spending until they know it's definitely something that they absolutely need.
Well, let's continue down this rabbit hole a little bit because my wheels are spinning. So we're rolling with this. So let's say Big Al does not come back. First question is, who do you think is your starting left tackle out of those that are on the roster right now? I just don't think, and I will say this now, I highly recommend listening to Dave's Stat Geek podcast on Thursday morning, because he talked a lot about what round the players actually contribute. And that kind of ties in with this question. Let's assume that the first round, if they take a tackle in the first round, he's not the day one starter. So who do you think is the left tackle to start the season, Bryan?
I still think it's Zach Banner. Okay. I know he fits in really well at right tackle. I kind of feel that, some people think Chooks might fit better at left tackle. I think Zach Banner does well. He is a big specimen. That doesn't mean that you're good just because you're big, but he's a very good run blocker, but he could protect. And one thing that I will never forget is something that he said to Dave, Michael Beck, back in June of last year, when he said, people don't realize that when I was protecting Sam Darnold, he got sacked only 4 times. 3 were legitimate sacks. 1 was because he fell down on my watch. So he can pass protect as well. We haven't seen the sample size that we really want to see out of him, but I think that he can do very well in that position.
Okay. Dave, you agree with the left tackle being Banner, or do you think Chooks slides over from right to left?
Personally, I think, well, the answer is, do you want your best player at left tackle or do you want the best fit at left tackle? Because I think right now, assuming everything's fine coming off the injury, you've got to put Banner ahead of Chooks because he won the job last year. But I think when it comes to fit, I think Chooks is more fit to be a left tackle than a right tackle. So we know what it's like when a player might be playing out of position. When you're a swing tackle, they want you to play both. And that's what you have to do to make it in the league a lot of times. But look at what happened with Matt Filer. We talked about how good he was at right tackle. I thought he'd be fine going back to guard because that's where he had been before. And he did not have the season this past year that he did the year before. Maybe what we saw from Chooks last year is he did all right, but he was a little bit out of position. Maybe he could be better. Maybe it would even be a dumpster fire. I don't know. But right now, just to be different from Bryan, I'm going to go Chooks.
All right. So either way, you're looking at a really fresh, we'll put it that way, fresh left side of the line with Dotson and or Okorafor or Banner. Is this a situation where you have to wonder if they don't get a tackle early? Do you think about Alejandro Villanueva as an option because he's at least a veteran presence and it wouldn't be too really – and Chooks has experience. I don't want to paint him with a broad brush that he's like really inexperienced. He has experience. He has more experience than Banner does. Does the left side of the line concern you if there's no Big Al in the equation, Bryan?
No, because I still think that you have guys that have enough experience now. They've been 4 years into the league, both of them. And I'm not really concerned about that left side of the line. I think that they could live with that those guys on that side of the line. And before anybody jumps on me for that, go back to 2008 when they won the Super Bowl. That was a mess. Go back to 2009 when you had Chris Scott.
Well, who was in 2008? That was the year they won Super Bowl 43. Let's talk about that line for a second.
They were the 32nd ranked line in the NFL.
It was what? Hartwig. Hartwig was the center, right?
Yeah.
No, wait, they were 32nd in 2010. I was trying to go back. They
went to the Super Bowl that year too.
Yeah, they were like 29th or worse in both.
Okay, let's do this. Hartwig was the center. Was Kimoyatu still on the team, or was Chris Kimoyatu?
Yeah. He was still there.
And Willie Colon.
Willie Colon. You
the
had
tackles were Darnell Stapleton,
number 72 Stapleton, and you had in 2008 Max got hurt. I think
2008 Flozell Adams was 45. He came in for Super Bowl 45.
He came in late in 2010 season. So Flozell, the hotel was there he was at right tackle.
Yeah,
but Marvell Smith may have been hurt, and I think Max Starks ended up in that left tackle.
I think you're right. Boy, that was a shoddy line. I'll never forget Hartwig with the holding in the end zone on the.
And you know the story about Hartwig going after
and Tony Depp.
Yeah. You were the editor at the time, weren't you?
Yeah, that was hysterical. So funny. Okay. Go ahead.
Called Tony an idiot.
Are you clarifying that, Dave? Are you looking it up?
Yeah, I was looking for who had the most starts on offense. It was Willie Colon had 16 starts. Justin Hartwig had 16 starts. Kiyomatu. This is mixed together offense and defense. It's terrible. No, Casey Hampton could have played offensive line, but he was too short. Stapleton started 12 games. Max Stark started 11 games. That's just for the season, as I'm looking at. Marvell Smith started 5 games.
There you go. Yeah. All right. Little trip down memory lane. Kendall Simmons, the type 1 diabetic. Okay, let's get to the other news from this week. And this was some big news in a lot of ways. I felt like the Steeler fan base had kind of been like taking little W's throughout the offseason, and Juju comes back, yay. We get Cam Sutton, yay. I felt like there were more L's than W's with the fan base. And that's not saying the three of us, that's not saying people in the live chat, but just in general, when you get a feel from the fan base. Losing Tyson Alualu was a gut punch. Everyone said that. He comes back. That's a W.
The resurrection.
Yes. Vince Williams gets cut. He's a cap casualty. And yeah, he might not have been the best player, but he meant something to the team. Like, he's a valuable asset to the team, even if it's just in the locker room. Vinny Vici is back. He is back. I felt that was a big W for the fan base. Bryan, when you heard the news that Vince Williams was coming back, what were your thoughts?
My first thought was, I could use my jersey again. I have the color rush Vince that I just bought in December. But no, I mean, you heard me talk all last season, and you heard me talk all of 2019 about Vince Williams. Everybody credits Minkah Fitzpatrick for that defense turning around, and he had a lot to do with it. I'm not saying he doesn't. But remember how bad they were against the run the first 3 weeks of the season. Vince Williams comes back. Next thing you know, they are very strong against the run. And that's one of the reasons they stayed alive that season and had a chance with 3 games to go to get to the playoffs. Vince Williams is one of the hearts of that defense, and we've talked about that a lot. He is not your best player, but he's probably one of your wisest players. You talked about him in the locker room. I think it's great to have Vince back again. I hate it when I saw that tweet that he said maybe it's what did he say, Dave? It's the road for me, or it looks like the street.
I hear the streets calling.
I hear the streets calling. And that kind of hurt because he's one of the ones that you have your Steeler football crush on just because he's tough. He's the guy I'm taking in the dark alley with me to make sure that I'm safe at 4 a.m. He's the guy that you
as long as he's wearing the Stone Cold vest and bringing the
belt. He's that guy that you feel is kind of the identity of the toughness of the team. And I feel like they got a little tougher bringing him back.
Dave, what were your thoughts when Vince comes back?
Oh, simple. hurry up and give me the number so I know how his contract affects the salary cap so I can update that again. That's my first thought, because I'm like, well, it's got to be under
of a website.
Yes, I'm like, it's got to be. Well, and just out of curiosity's sake, because they're not bringing him back. I mean, the dead money was the dead money, whether he was on the team or off the team.
Right.
So then it was the $4 million in salary that they saved. What's he getting this year? Or even better, what's he counting towards the salary cap this year? Don't know if they're using the void year things again, that they've now stuck their feet in the water and now they seem obsessed with it. And I'm not opposed to it either. That wasn't a knock. It was just all of a sudden, they open Pandora's box and boom, every new contract has void years. But I'm just curious to see, because ultimately it needed to be a cap savings, him coming back, versus if they would have just kept him the whole time, because they never dipped low enough that it would have mattered that he was still on the roster.
Yeah. So this also, in my opinion, bleeds into another. We ran this article on the website, another rumor. So Vince Williams comes back. Avery Williamson, and this is all our deputy editor Michael Beck's doing, because he's the social media nerd, and he's, oh my gosh, like Avery Williamson just changed his Instagram picture to a Steeler picture, and like, okay, Michael, we get it. And then it was, oh my gosh, his Twitter header has just been changed to a Steeler picture. Okay, and then, so there's a lot of I guess hinting that he might be coming back. With Vince coming back, is the Williamson return off, or do you think it still could be on, Bryan?
No, I think it's off. I really I don't see that happening. The thing that happened with the Vince situation, he was offered more. I don't know whether whether he had his representation reach out to the Steelers or not, but he was offered more in some places, is what the scuttlebutt is right now when you're talking about Vince Williams and his return. But I just don't think that I really think that this was an 11th hour deal where they were expecting to bring back Avery Williamson, and then this kind of fell on their lap possibly. And that's what's going on in my head here. But I just don't think you bring in Avery too. You're probably going to want to bring somebody young in to whether it be a guy like Spillane, that was another Spillane, not Spillane because he's there, but a guy like that from another team, or someone that you think that you can put on the practice squad, LJ Fort, like from before, those situations where you can groom that guy like they did with a McClendon, even though that was a no-tackle situation. You have maybe an undrafted free agent, somebody that you move up in the ranks. I would see that happening. I think there's going to be a draft pick in there too. So I don't expect Williamson to be coming back now, because I think this completely squashes that. But when that came out on Monday, I think that was very much alive and happening.
Okay, Dave, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know that it kills it for Williamson coming back, but I do think that it does bring it more into question. We don't know if it was a, two dogs, one bone, but this bone in this case is the contract, and that they are basically saying, all right, we're going to sign one of them. And they ended up, they're in talks. Williamson thought he was coming back, and all of a sudden it went to Williams. Maybe they wanted to bring both of them back. We don't know. But I would say how we felt when that came out Monday night, I guess it was Monday night. It wasn't Tuesday night. It was Monday night.
It was Monday.
Okay. That we definitely don't feel with it as much of certainty as we do now. And it's so funny because I updated the Steelers depth charts today, 2 weeks out from the draft on the website. And when I did the defensive one, someone said, so is Vince Williams official? And someone else has already commented, he says, just as official as Williamson. And I said, nah, there were legitimate sources other than just looking at a social media post that said this is there. Therefore, everyone's rolling. I mean, teammates are congratulating it on coming back. It's a whole different story. I responded 90 seconds later. I had the alert on my phone. The Pittsburgh Steelers officially signed Vince Williams and showed signing his things. I'm like, yeah, he is official. So I don't know that it, like I said, I think it because there wasn't any major credibility to the story. Now you have to wonder, yeah, maybe that was just, it was too much. It was too much talk about it. So we'll see.
Would you ever see a situation where Williamson still does come back and there's kind of a competition at inside linebacker to play alongside Devin Bush, Bryan? Or do you think that it's probably a done deal? It's just Vince Williams.
No, I think they're all about competition. I could see it happening. Like Dave said, and like I hinted at earlier, I think it's a lot less likely to happen now because I think you bring in someone else, not bring in someone else, but you start young at that fourth spot. But they definitely would have a very deep team if they brought in Williamson, and then you let them fight it out in camp. It's a free for all. It's Bush is there, and you say, I mean, Spillane, he's not your starter on that side. He's not necessarily your starter, but he can earn it if he wants to.
Yeah,
so could Vince Williams. So could Avery Williamson if he comes back. Everybody has a chance to fight it out. There's no incumbent in this situation because Vince is not an incumbent. He didn't leave the team. He was asked to leave the team, and now he's back. But it just doesn't mean that you just step into the starting role.
What about you, Dave? You think they could ever have Williamson and Williams in any situation?
Could the Steelers do it? I could see them doing it due to the competition. Would Williamson be interested in that is the question, because do you want to come back, or do you want to are you going to look for a better chance to where you can get your playing time? But there has to be teams out there that are actually offering you a contract. That's what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to the market for Williamson. And who knows, maybe he's the guy that now has been put on hold and just to see how the draft falls for the Steelers. And if they take a player at the position, then they don't need someone else. But if they don't, then hey, it wouldn't hurt to have Williamson around. We'll see.
All right. That wasn't the only news. The biggest news is yet to be talked about, and that is obviously the signing of Joshua Dobbs to a 1-year deal. I mean, you sign a 4-string quarterback, that should be the headline of the website. I'm just joking.
He's not a 4th-string quarterback. He's the 3rd-string quarterback.
Really? Okay.
That's where I put him on the depth chart.
Because he has an experience. I get you. You put him over Mason Rudolph. All right. Anyways.
Hey, no reason. Hey, when new guys come in, they got to earn it. So
now I got to be honest. In my Let's Ride on Friday, I do call out Bryan Anthony Davis for some comments he made on the Slack channel, but I'm not going to bring it up now.
No. Well, let me say something about that.
Go ahead.
I did not defend myself, and it's really not much of a defense because I fell into the I'm blaming Michael Beck on this.
Michael gets blamed for everything,
and the reason because he said Dwayne Haskins has taken everything down from his social media on the Steelers. Are they not liking him anymore? And I'm starting to think, wow, maybe that it's an Isaiah Wilson type thing with the Tennessee Titans and then the Miami Dolphins. He comes there and they realize that, okay, this guy's late to meetings. I know there haven't been meetings, but maybe there's something they don't like. They don't like in habits. So that's why I made one comment. And then I'm like, I better back off of this because Jeff's going to just completely have me for lunch because I don't have much to back this up on.
Let me outline the situation first, then Dave, I'll let you chime in.
Okay.
Bryan made a comment after Dobbs comes back that I feel like the Steelers might be down on Haskins right now. And I said, essentially, how in the world can you suggest that when they have done nothing? Like nothing, unless he went out and did something off the field. He took down his Twitter page. Like he deleted his Twitter account. Okay, I think that's a good move. That's a good news. The less distraction. But Dave, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, no. I was waiting. Here we go. I was just
going to say, I have no leg to stand on here. So
okay, yeah. Bryan has to go to the leg store to find one. He needs one. Sorry. Now, what was I saying? Oh, that. When I said where I was putting him on the depth chart, that's only because, like Jeff said, they haven't taken a snap. They haven't done anything. Yeah. So even though Joshua Dobbs was was not on the Steelers roster because he was a free agent, now that he's back, to me, it's all where you're starting because it means nothing now. It all depends on how they do through the preseason, training camp, all that stuff. It will all shake out. And I'm not saying it's going to be one over the other. I'm not ready to crown anybody. I'm not ready to dismiss anybody. I am content with what the Steelers have at the quarterback position for 2021. I don't know that this is the future, but I'm saying just for this year, knowing that Ben Roethlisberger is going in as the starter, I'm content with what they have behind him right now.
All right, before we take a break, I spend an entire segment on this on my Let's Ride at my Heart to Heart, which is every Friday, about if anyone out there thinks that the bringing back Vince Williams or bringing back Joshua Dobbs somehow alters the Steelers draft plans, you are insane. Period. Okay, We're going to take a quick break, and you can check that out tomorrow on our podcast platform. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have some fun, and we're going to talk about some draft day etiquette, what you should not do as fans during the NFL draft. If you're listening on audio, go to part 2. If you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, stay tuned. We're not going anywhere. We'll be right back. All right, Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome back to part 2 of the Steelers preview. I'm Jeff Hartman, co-editor of BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. Joining me as always, Bryan Anthony Davis, podcast producer, Dave Schofield, the other co-editor, and we're about to have some fun here. We want to talk about, and this stemmed from last week. Last week, we did an entire show about how the 5 things the Steelers should not do in the NFL draft. And I thought it was a great show. I thought it was, really fun. We had a good discussion. And so someone, I can't remember if it was in the comments section, if it was on Twitter, or if it was on our live chat, or someone commented on the YouTube video. I'm not sure. But someone said you should do a 5 things fans should not do during the draft. So what are 5 things that fans should not do during the draft? I said, you know what? I like that. I like that idea. So we decided let's do it in the second segment tonight. And here we go. We'll start with Bryan. Now, Bryan, I got to give him a little bit of props because he typically does. Do you do an etiquette? Is it for the draft or just the Super Bowl? But you're used to doing etiquette.
I do Super Bowl etiquette, but I may have done a draft etiquette in the past.
Okay. So he has some experience here. So we're going to let you go first. What's your top thing that you tell fans they should not do during the NFL draft?
Okay, number 1 for me is don't be close-minded to a pick. And I got to tell you, I remember way back in 2014, I even put this out on Facebook. I was not with the site at the time. I wasn't with any site. I was just a fan, and I was really ticked off that the Steelers took this late rising guy out of Ohio State, and I didn't really think they needed an inside linebacker. Was not happy with the Ryan Shazier pick. And then all of a sudden, people started saying, wait, look at this. Check him out a little bit. And after I started watching some stuff, highlights, reading more about him, like, okay, yeah, I could get behind this pick. But I really they're going to really regret not picking Darqueze Dennard. And so, that just shows my ignorance to the whole situation, that I got to be more open-minded. And this is going to I throw this in all the time. I say it all the time. They know more than I know. They know more than you know. And so just kind of trust that they've scouted them so much better than I have by just looking on YouTube and reading what Adam Schefter has to say. So there you go.
So you're saying, as Muhammad says, don't be Dave when your team picks Deontay Johnson, because we all know that Dave hates Deontay Johnson still to this day. He is the charter member of the Deontay Johnson hate club. So, all right, Dave, go ahead.
I have a signed mini helmet from him. That's all. He's only the background on my phone. Mine are in no particular order. Okay. And mine are a little bit different. Mine all start off, don't be that guy. I should say don't be that guy or gal, because we have plenty of gals, but they wouldn't be this way. I'm going to say that. So I'm going to tell everyone else to don't be that guy. And these are all from experiences that I've had in the past or even extremely recently. Don't be that guy who thinks just because you love someone means the Steelers has to love them too.
I like that.
I
like that. We all have our draft crushes, and I think it was Kevin Smith, Cliff Harris is still a punk, wrote a really good article about the all-time best draft crushes in BTSC history since he has been there. And I think Andrew Billings Baylor was the number 1 draft crush. And he went to, didn't he get drafted in like the 3rd round?
Fourth.
Oh my God.
Because the Steelers took Hargrave
Yeah.
in the third round.
Yeah, I remember that. I'm like,
And he just
oh,
kept
they
falling
took someone to
and
position.
falling
and
and falling. We're like, we're gonna get Billings. We don't get Billings. What are we doing?
Oh,
Second
wait,
round.
he's there in the next round. We got
We're gonna
Billings.
get Billings. We're not gonna get. All right, Dave Shipley gives us $5 and says, in Rooney, Colbert, and BTSC, I trust. Thank you, Dave, for the tip, and thank you for the nice comment. We appreciate it. We hope that you all are always there enjoying the content. All right, so my top one is don't pretend that you can do better. I cannot stand. Number one, I never have liked armchair quarterbacks. You know, the people that, oh, Ben stinks. Yeah, I could make that throw. No, you couldn't. No, you couldn't. And the people that say, oh, I've been scouting these guys and I've been watching my film and this guy's the better pick. Look, don't pretend that you can do better. You can absolutely be educated. You can educate yourself. You can watch film and you can have an opinion. But do not pretend that somehow you are the equivalent of a general manager in the National Football League. Okay. If you want to do your mock drafts and you want to be Matty Peverill and have, the Steelers somehow gaining 55 picks because he made 14 trades in the draft, whatever, that's fine. You're entitled to doing that. But that doesn't mean that you should be the one pulling the trigger on the pick. Okay. So keep that in mind. That's my number one. Don't pretend that you can do better. Go ahead, Dave.
I'm just going to say, because mine were in no order. It was technically my number 5. It was don't be that guy who says, if only they would have listened to me, this team would be stacked for the next 10 years. So I'm right behind you on that one. So, but just wanted to phrase it in the way that I did. So I agree. Yours was on my list as well, Jeff.
Okay. So Brian's would have been, if it were only me, we'd have a team full of Senquez Golsons. But anyway.
And Gabe Rivera's. Yes, I know.
All right, Brian, back to you. What's your second one?
I'm an apologist. Just trust me, I am. All right. You guys, live chat's going to be really ticked off with this one. Don't go crazy and don't be closed-minded to a running back in the first round. If they feel like a running back is going to benefit this team, they can get a running back in the first round because this is what they're doing. Okay. You need to have peripheral vision here, not the tunnel vision. I know teams don't typically pick a running back in the first round. It does happen. If you feel that you're only going to get 5 years out of a running back and that's not enough, and then you can get one in other rounds, sure, yes, you can. But Benny Snell was picked in the 4th round. He's not your starter now. That hasn't happened yet. Now, I'm kind of stealing from another one. They have 20 different drafts and plans here. If they feel that the running back is number 1, they know the offensive tackle that they could get at number 2 and be very happy with it. They know the center they can be very happy with. I hope I'm not pulling on I hope I'm not stepping on Dave's toes here because I know this is something that he always says. Don't fall in love with a particular player. If I stole one of yours, Dave,
no, I didn't put that one because I have mine are, like I said, mine are different.
and the reason I didn't put that immediately on my list is because Dave always says that because he's going to end up wearing purple. But everybody that's falling in love right now with Creed Humphrey, there's a guy in the 2nd that they're comfortable with if they get a guy in the 1st at a different position. There's a guy in the 3rd round that they're comfortable with at center or at running back if they go offensive tackle 1st and center 2nd. There's so many different positions that they have plans for. If this guy's not here, then we go to this plan, but we have this backup plan. They have so many plans. If you can get a blockbuster running back for the next 5 years, you take them. If you feel it fits your team. And everybody guys, save it because I'm not looking. I'm definitely not paying attention. There's going to be no 2 losses for Seattle right now because I'm not looking at it because I know what you're going to say. But here's the thing. Yes, they got to fix the line first. I know they've got to fix the line. But guess what? You don't have to fix it in the 1st round. You can get those guys in other rounds. It's not the guy in the 1st round that's great and no one else is potential starter. You get starters in other rounds.
I don't think you listened to Stat Geek this morning, did he?
Yeah.
I did not.
Yeah. You need to. I'm telling you right now,
the numbers.
It'll completely change the way you view the narratives around the first year for rookies. It really will. I was driving to work, literally saying to myself, holy crap, like you can't debate this. These are straight up fact numbers. I don't want to ruin it because I really want people to check it out. So, Dave, what's your next one?
It even surprised me. That's what happened when you get a great question. But anyway, speaking of which, I have to answer. I had someone else ask me another question. I'm like, that was my trivia for tonight. So we got to make sure we get there. Right. Like I said, mine are different because I'm talking about specific things. Don't be that guy. Okay. Don't be that guy who's done 57 mock drafts. And when the Steelers pick someone, you selected in one of them, you're like, I called it. I knew that was the pick. I can't stand it. Don't be that guy. That's the guy that fills out 30 NCAA brackets, and in one of them you pick a 15 to upset a 2, and then when they do it, you're like, oh my goodness, I knew exactly this is what was going to happen. Yeah, well, you did do it in the other 29. So just don't be that guy. It's okay. Now, some people, they're behind someone, and then like Shannon was behind Alex Highsmith in the 3rd round all last year. That's cool. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the person, you can even say I'd be more that person. I'm not going to say I called it because I've had several different thoughts of different people with different positions through this whole process. So I can't go back because I've looked at a dozen different guys that I think they'll take in the 1st round and then say, oh, wow, I nailed that pick. I knew that's exactly who they were going to take. I might have to come on the show after the draft and say exactly that just to rile people up.
That's a good one, though. I really like that one. My don't do list is don't put any trust into any type of draft grade for at least 2 years. There's so many people that look at like PFF gave our draft class a D-. They stink. Colbert's awful. Well, okay, go back and look at 2020's draft grades. That's the most recent draft class that we have. I guarantee you they weren't very kind to the Steelers. I remember writing those articles. They were probably C's, C-, maybe a B here or there. I don't remember writing any article that had someone giving him an A. Turned out to be a really good draft class. When they redrafted everything after last season, the Steelers had 3 first-round draft picks in Claypool, Highsmith, and Dotson. Think about that. And that's only after 1 year, mind you. So, let's say Antoine Brooks Jr. really takes a step forward, or Anthony McFarland really starts to play well in his 2nd year and finds a nice little niche in the team. That changes everything. You got to wait a couple years. Now, I'm not going to be I'm not going to stand here and say, we're not going to do draft grades this year. No, we are, because we're not stupid. And we run a website that's based off of page views. We're going to do grades. We're going to try to do them in a way that's a little bit different, more about grading the pick at the time, who was available, stuff like that. But still, keep that in mind. All right, Brian, go ahead. What's your next one?
My next one was don't pay attention to the so-called experts when they grade your team's draft. Hey, original thought. Yeah. I'm glad you said that, Jeff. When you go back to 1974, Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, besides the 1st round pick and Lynn Swann, everybody else is a complete reach and a bunch of nobodies.
Yeah. That's what they said. Yeah. And they didn't address the needs they really needed.
Absolutely. So
how many Hall of Famers in that class?
Well, they said that Lynn Swann was okay, but apparently at number 2, Jack Lambert was a reach. At number 3, Stallworth and Jimmy Allen, which Jimmy Allen they got a couple years out of. He didn't last that long. No number 4 pick, and number 5, Mike Webster, wasn't good at all. Plus, throw in the fact that you have 4 Hall of Famers from that draft. Then think about this: you have an undrafted free agent from that draft. This guy right here, that guy from South Carolina State that had just got into the Hall of Fame. So 5 Hall of Famers. And when you look at the rest of the Hall of Famers picked in the 1974 draft, there's only a couple.
Yeah. All right, that's a good one. Go ahead, Dave.
I got to say it, especially after one of the comments just in the live chat. You ready? Here you go. Don't be that guy. Or in this case, I have to say that girl, Steeler Chick 46. Don't be that guy who makes fun of someone who can't pronounce the player. Okay? Don't be that guy. You know what? Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Okay. Next thing you know, you're making fun of the dyslexic guy that he can't read their names.
He's bringing out the disability.
Yeah. And you also you're like, you just don't know any of these players. Yeah. I have read hundreds of mock drafts doing these mock draft Monday articles. But you know what I haven't done? I haven't listened to people say their names. No. I'm not watching it on TV. Forget that. Ain't nobody got time for that. I'm reading these mock drafts. So I've seen their names. I can identify them, but I can't pronounce them. Don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. And you know what? When you draft Chris Mafala, you end up calling him Fu anyways, and it's fine. Yeah. Just like J.
Oh no! Tuesday night, it was it a receiver from Illinois?
They said
the Bebe.
Imator Bebe.
Have you seen how his name's really spelled? Oh my goodness!
I say it every year that I want the Steelers to draft this guy. I know nothing about him. I just want to hear the Yinzers pronounce his name. I say that all the time. This goes back to hockey. This was years ago. Yeah, I'm a big Pittsburgh Penguin fan in that. I go down and see Lemmy X and Jagger at the arena and everything.
Lemmy X
and Jagger. People said Lemmy X. People said Lemmy X.
I would be happy. I'm happy late rounds where they just draft guys with really cool names. Like this year on our one Tuesday night, we could have drafted Diablo. I'm like, come on, give me the devil, man.
I wanted the Steelers. I wanted Taco Charlton so bad because I wanted Taco. Yeah. Taco Tuesday.
All right. Dave Shipley gives us $5. Says, can we get an amen for Omar Khan? I'm glad he's still with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's for sure. All right. That was a good one, Dave. The pronunciation, it's always a good one. Here's mine. Don't overvalue day 3 picks. I swear, every year we are talking about these day 3 picks, and there is some value there, and you do see some significant players coming from day 3, but let's be honest, the odds are not in their favor. And sometimes it'll be a 7th round pick. I can't believe they took Carlos Davis when there was someone else that I just loved still available. It's a 7th round pick, man. Like, come on. I get it. And there is some value there, but don't overvalue. Don't freak out over a 7th round pick as if it was your 1st round pick. That's a stark difference. Don't even compare a 3rd round pick to a 7th round pick. Like, it's literally 2 different beasts. And what do you always say, Dave? A 7th round pick is what? An undrafted rookie that you didn't want anyone else to get. Over. Exactly. Yeah. So that's my thing. Like, I think a lot of times people just go a little overboard with those late, we're talking 6th, 7th round picks.
It's not that you don't get good ones.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to find them eventually.
Right. Like, Jonah on Facebook says, wasn't Vince Williams a day 3? Yeah, so was Antonio Brown. He's a 6th round pick. They both were 6th round, but still,
how many times have they got 2 in the same draft that would have been day 3 picks that really panned out? That's Brian's probably going to make me go look that one up now or something.
All right, Brian.
I'm looking them up in my series that you should be checking out. We're doing the 5th round picks this week, the best of all time. So,
all right, Brian, go ahead with your next one on the list.
This is kind of reiterating a couple things that I said before. So, since this is my number 4. I'm going to say this. Don't forget that you aren't an insider, but don't regurgitate what the insiders say and keep it as your own. Don't listen to what Mel Kiper is saying and go out and take that as your own. So don't do that.
That's a good one. What about you, Dave? What's your next one?
Mine, it's anticlimactic to end on this one because this was actually from something today when I was defending one deputy editor, Michael Beck, on Twitter. Don't be that guy that tries to make other people look silly by over-exaggerating. Because Michael Beck put out this poll. It was a great poll. And if you look at the heart of what the poll was asking, he was asking, would you rather have, I'm going to butcher some names, so I'm not going to put it out there completely. Would you rather have Najee Harris in the 1st, and then the lineman from Wisconsin Whitewater and Northern Iowa, it's Northern Iowa. That one's Spencer Brown. I know that name. As your
Twin Miners.
Yeah. Would you rather have those 3 picks, or would you rather have where some other players fell to you early and you got Darrisaw in the 1 and Creed Humphrey in the 2, but then you got, I don't even remember what running back you put down there. Was someone ranked like 100 or later? In other words, it was the notion of would are you happy getting extra value in the first round, but not addressing the running back position? Or are you making sure you get that running back knowing that you could have had some value that you never thought you would have had otherwise? And someone actually said about the first one that was Darrisaw and Creed Humphrey says, oh no, why don't you just go ahead and say that they're going to take Trevor Lawrence in the first and Kyle Pitts in the second and the tackle from Oregon in the third? And I'm like, oh, it's the same thing because it's just as likely. I'm sorry, it's not just as likely. It really isn't. There have been some mock drafts that have put Darrisaw later than what the Steelers picked. Very, very few ones. And I don't think he's going to be there. It was just a great question. But don't be that guy that thinks you got to go. And like when someone's disappointed that someone that they wanted gets picked 2 picks before the Steelers go, and turn around and say, "Oh yeah, well they really never had a chance at Zach Wilson." Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. Don't be that. Don't be that guy.
Well, those are the people also that the breakdowns I've done on Behind the Steel Curtain that will say like, I did one on Darrisaw. He'll never be there at 24. This is a waste of time. Well, people do slide a lot.
Neither was David DeCastro.
Exactly.
Honestly, DeCastro was probably ranked higher than Darrisaw in his draft.
DeCastro was supposed to be like, if not top 10, right around the 10th pick, and he slid all the way to 24.
I've seen Darrisaw as high as 7 and as low as 29.
If he's 7, then they have him ahead of Slater probably.
And his average is 13. So. Yeah. He's probably not going to be there. But the whole point of the question was, if he's there, are you still going to be disappointed that the Steelers didn't get and they don't end up getting one of the top 3 running backs? Are you going to be disappointed because they actually made the move on that kind of player that was there? And that was ultimately, and shockingly, the results of the poll was they wanted the running back. I'm like, these people are crazy.
Let me chime in.
I understand wanting the running back, but you don't pass up with someone you don't pass up a David DeCastro like that. You don't do it.
Right.
Sorry.
If I could chime in real quick, we are looking for different ways to present material to you all the time. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's a stretch. Read the article fully before you criticize what we're saying. Because a lot of the times, and I get this on Tony's podcast all the time, they'll read his headline on the podcast, and then they'll just bounce on them. And then I'll have to type in, I'm like, did you even listen to the show? Did you even read the article? Because that's satire. We don't have the sarcasm font. I think we need it sometimes. But what I'm saying is read the whole thing and understand, so I don't have to say, all right, I'm going to fight with this guy now, which I usually don't. But every once in a while, I'm like, look, read the thing and realize that we're thinking outside of the box. And that's exactly what they were doing in that article. If people do fall, everybody is saying this too. It's like, well, that guy's never going to be available in the 3rd round, but everybody you bring up is never going to be available in the 3rd round. Somebody's got to drop.
Yeah.
People are going to drop.
Yep.
All right. So I'm done.
My last one.
My last one on my list is trades should never be assumed. So go back to the scenario that Dave said where someone takes a guy that the Steelers might have coveted 2 picks before Pittsburgh, and people say, oh, they should have traded up. Well, they might have called, but the team might not have wanted to give up their pick. They might have liked that player. Like, don't assume the teams are – also, don't assume that someone's going to try to trade back into the first round. It doesn't always happen. You have to have a team that's willing to trade up or wanting to get back into the first, because that's for some reason more so this year than most. It's everyone wants to trade back, just trade back. A team has to want to come back into the first round, and the Steelers have to be comfortable with what they're giving up. They have to be willing to give up their first round pick, possibly. They have to be feeling like they get a good enough compensation to give up that first round pick. It doesn't always happen. I think that's probably one of the toughest trades to pull off, in my opinion, if you're giving up. Like, let's say someone says, oh, we already had our first round pick. We want to go back into the first round. We want Steelers at 24. We're going to give you our second. What else are you going to give up? That's going to be a tough sell. So just never assume that the trade's going to happen. Go ahead, Dave.
People don't understand how amazing it was that the Steelers pulled off the trade for Devin Bush, because that was the Broncos pick. That's who they were going to take. And do you have any idea I mean, it's one thing to jump ahead of a team in order to get them because you want to jump, that's what the Steelers did when they traded up for Mason Rudolph. They jumped ahead of the 2 picks of Cincinnati so they could grab them. But to trade with the team that's going to actually take the player and that then they're actually willing to do the trade with you, that was a big deal that they pulled that off.
Yeah.
You know what? I just want to jump in on that. It's funny. I agree with you completely on that because they took the guy away from the Broncos that they wanted to take. Broncos ended up getting a good deal as well, too, because they're very happy with Noah Fant. And then with the 2nd round pick, they got their center. They got Cushenberry. So
that was who they got the next year. But yeah.
That was okay. I'm sorry. That was last year.
Yep.
But I think with their 2nd pick, they got somebody very good, too, as well. So they did well in that.
They traded that pick. But they used it to move up and get somebody good. They did.
Yeah, something happened there.
All right, Bryan, are you done with your list, or do you?
No, I have one more, and this is the one I alluded to before. Don't break up with your significant other the morning of the draft when the Steelers are talking about trading up for Santonio Holmes. Don't do that.
What?
I will never forgive my wife. We weren't even fighting. She just was having one of those down days. We were on the phone. I was living about an hour away, and she called. Well, maybe, everything's going on with my family here. I don't want to put all this pressure on you, so maybe we should just not go out anymore. Maybe we should just break up. I'm like, this is the draft. This is my Christmas day. You cannot break up with me on draft day. So every year on draft day, I bring up that she broke up with me on draft day. I tell my kids on how your mom broke up with me on draft day, and they wouldn't exist if I didn't insist that after the Steelers picked Santonio Holmes, that she should stay with me. We were broken up for pretty much for about 2 hours because I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to you after the Steelers pick, and we'll be okay.
Oh my gosh!
Can I ask you guys a real quick question before we do a quick trivia?
Yeah.
What is more disappointing? If you're someone who kind of has a player you would like the Steelers to draft, for that player to go a pick or 2 before they pick, or for that player to be available and the Steelers did not take them?
I would them passing on the player is worse than someone taking them before him, because even the William Jackson III scenario where they took Artie Burns, the Steelers can't control that. They can't control that. But if you pass on the guy, you had him there. He was
people
available.
Upset last year when they didn't draft Dobbins.
Yeah, I mean Dobbins was there. I mean, I wasn't as high on him as most people were, but still. Yeah. Bryan, what about you?
Well, Chris Johnson comes to mind because the very pick after they take Rashard Mendenhall, you could have got Chris Johnson. You don't know those things. Hindsight is 20/20, of course. Artie Burns, maybe hold out 10 more picks, get Xavier Howard. I mean, that would have been nice, but it's really tough. But as far as Dave's right about the trade up, another team trading ahead of you too, because in 2007, as great as Lawrence Timmons, Law Dog was, love him. He wasn't the pick there. It was Darrelle Revis. The Jets convinced the Carolina Panthers to trade, moved up 1 spot ahead of the Steelers, and picked Darrelle Revis. That was going to be the next Pittsburgh Steeler number 1 pick, the next corner. So when we talk about how the Steelers can't draft a corner, well, they would have drafted a very good corner there. They just got somebody moved ahead of them.
There you go. Yep. All right, trivia time, Dave. We're running out of time. Let's do this.
Yes, we got to do this quick. So this was something that I had to mention because it kind of goes along with what I talked about on Stat Geek this morning. I had someone, it was actually Captain Underpants, email me a follow-up question. I said, a question. I said, listen to my Stat Geek this morning. He's like, I just did. I'm like, oh, well, that's on my brain. Oh, I didn't say it in there. It's because I was saying it for the trivia. So he wants to hear this. Okay. The Pittsburgh Steelers, under Kevin Colbert, we were looking at stuff. We were looking at first-round picks and everything that they were doing. I only did from 2012 on because I was looking at snap counts, and that's when they're available. But when you go back and look at it, there were 4 first-round picks in the Kevin Colbert era that did not start a game their rookie season. Who were they? They played because everyone played. Every first round pick is played, and every second round pick is played, and even eventually started a game except for since, or not even started a game. But I mean, they've all played except for Senquez Golston. But who did not start any games as a rookie? First round draft pick in the Kevin Colbert era.
Cam Hayward.
Cam Hayward. That is correct because he didn't start any games his first 2 seasons.
Ziggy Hood.
Ziggy Hood.
Is that 2?
That's 2.
Nice.
How many do we have?
4.
Okay, I was definitely going to say Cam.
And no cheat.
Troy Polamalu.
Troy Polamalu did not start any games his rookie season.
Nice. See, people didn't listen to your Stat Geek. I see some of these answers rolling in. They didn't listen to the Stat Geek.
Because from 2012 on, they all started eventually.
Yeah.
Someone before then.
There's only one. Come on,
one
Bryan.
more.
I did 2. Woodley was a second round pick.
I got 1. Let's see. 2007. Would it be Timmons?
That was going to say, Thaddeus, you're the right year, but wrong round. The aforementioned Lawrence Timmons.
Wow.
Yeah. So, 2 quick follow-ups. One, who was the only player in the Kevin Colbert era as a rookie to start every game? That's an easy one.
Who was the what?
The only first round draft pick in the Kevin Colbert era to start every game in their rookie season. All 16.
I mean, I would have to say, well, no, it's not Ben Roethlisberger.
TJ Watt.
TJ Watt was injured in week 3. He's one of the 4 that was 15 starts.
Plexico.
Nope.
Santonio.
Wide receivers, too many.
No.
Too
Well,
many
because that's
in and out.
Okay.
A formation. I thought this was an easy one.
Pouncey.
Yeah, it's Marquise Pouncey.
There you go.
Marquise Pouncey started every game. There was 4 players that started 15. That was Heath Miller, TJ Watt, Terrell Edmonds, and Devin Bush. All started 15. But then what I was asked also was, did the Steelers? So this kind of goes into the questions. Did the Steelers ever draft anyone and just kind of to not play them their rookie year? I mean, they kind of did that with Cam. They played him, but they never started him. So this goes back to the merger, because before the merger doesn't count because you could draft guys that didn't even play for the team. Who appeared in the least number of games as a first-round draft pick their rookie season since 1970? I'm not going to make this go very long.
Dave Brown.
Good guess, but that's not correct.
I don't know.
Greg Hawthorne.
Another good guess, but it's not correct.
Gabriel. Well, no.
Why don't you tell us who it was?
Okay. Well, no. Well, you were right because you said Gabe Rivera. He played in 6 games. Walter Abercrombie was 6. Huey Richardson was 5. DeCastro only played 4 because he was injured. Same with Rashard Mendenhall, and same with John Renstra. But the player that only played in 1 game their rookie season was in 1980.
Mark Malone. Dick Shiner. Oh, sorry.
Mark Malone. So technically, Mark Malone, you could say, was someone who was drafted to sit and wait and be the next guy. So
that always makes me laugh. How many times do you say Dick Shiner at home? You know, like your
I honestly don't accept this show is the only time I say it.
Hey, Jeff, your wife says to you, hey, Jeff, guess who I saw today? Dick Shiner? No.
Unless I get a mention from Dick Shiner's burner Twitter account. That's the only time I bring him up.
Nope.
All right. Let's do some very quick final words, unless, Bryan, you have trivia. Do you have trivia?
I do not. Nope.
All right. Final words. Final thoughts, Bryan. Go ahead.
Enjoy this ride that's coming up and realize that there's going to be so much coming out. The next couple of weeks, there's going to be so many players that you can't miss. But in 2 weeks from tonight, when we're celebrating that number 1 pick, celebrate that number 1 pick. These guys really know what they're doing. Sometimes they miss, but when you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and their drafting success, especially the first round picks in the last decade, it's pretty solid.
All right, Dave, final thoughts.
I've said it a bunch of times. I just want to know who's going to be wearing black and gold so I can fall in love with them. I really do, because I mean, even some players, I'm like, oh, I really hope they take it there. That would be so great. I'm not feeling the same way now. I'm really okay with whatever the Steelers do. I just want to know who it's going to be. I want to read Bryan's article, guessing what number they're going to be, so that way we can prepare for Bryan to get 17 jerseys of it, if he can, and see him wear them all on the podcasts and know who it is that we'll be cheering for. I don't care. If they're a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm going to love them, hopefully. So I just can't wait to know who it is.
As for me, I'm just praying they draft a punter in the 7th round. All right, here we go. We're just going to finish it out there. Make sure you check out BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. It's your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. Make sure you follow us on our podcast platform, wherever you get your podcasts, or Steelers, or Behind the Steel Curtain. Subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do so that you don't miss a thing. Dave, why don't you send us out?
Hey.
There it is, folks. Have a great week. We'll see you next week for another episode of the Steelers Preview.